at all. No, I'm actually Lauren Cross, and I am going to read an excerpt from my essay called Flings. And I haven't decided if it's going to be in my first memoir or my second. My first one is currently being edited by the talented Tracy, and the second is somewhere on my computer. All right. It was bedtime. My new bedroom was at the far end of the courtyard from the main house. My legs were tucked under a white woven bedspread, and I leaned my head against the textured bumps of a concrete wall painted pale pink. My dad came in to say goodnight. He perched on the edge of my bed, but didn't turn up the light. I felt mixed up inside. Like I should know what was coming, except I didn't. I smelled the sour and dusty green of booze and joints, and knew he wasn't there to read me a story. Your mother doesn't love me anymore, Lolly, and I don't know what to do. He looked like an altar boy, beseeching the heavens for intervention. He closed his eyes and his lashes wicked away his tears. When he opened his eyes, he stared at me expectantly, like I should have answers. I was wide-eyed with uncertainty. I wanted to say, I don't know what you should do, I'm only 10. But I felt guilty for even thinking that. I felt sorry for my dad. He looked so sad. But I was overcome by a new feeling that I didn't have a word for yet. Helplessness. To make all the feelings go away, I suggested he buy my mum a ring. She hadn't worn her wedding band in a long time. Isn't that what grown-ups did? Buy each other jewellery? That's a good idea, Lolly. Go to sleep. He kissed the top of my head goodnight. Not long after, my mother was sporting a teardrop-shaped ruby surrounded by diamonds on her hand. I was baffled that my dad had taken my advice. But that's another thing grown-ups did. Talk to you like an adult, but treat you like a little kid. Adults were confusing. So was puberty. On the day I announced I wasn't going to play with dolls anymore, my dad sighed again. His eyes turned skyward for a moment before they rested on me. Don't be in a hurry to grow up, love. Once your childhood is over, it's over. It was the first time I ever felt irritated by him. But the intensity of his beady eyes, glaring with the sadness of someone who feared he was saying goodbye to his little girl, as well as his wife, silenced me. His work would soon take him back to LA. What was supposed to be a couple of months apart would end up being a year. By then, there was a new man in my mother's life, a Belgian with a fondness for Côte d'Or chocolate and Harry Belafonte. We're going swimming today, my mum beamed, with Robert. She pronounced his name the French way, Rob-Air, breathlessly. She seemed starstruck. Her casual pause conferred significance to his being there. We'd been seeing rather a lot of him. Up until that pause, I'd thought Robert was just a new friend, gladly showing my mum and her kids around a new country. He had a membership to Coral Beach, an apartment club boasting a larger-than-Olympic-sized saltwater pool on the edge of the Mediterranean. I loved going to Coral Beach. All day, I'd scamper between the sea and the pool. I'd charge into the cold sea, then run, dripping wet, across the hot sand that squeaked underfoot, along cooler pathways lined with dark green foliage of low palms and bright flowers that whipped my ankles as I sped past. And then I'd fling myself into a warm saltwater pool. After the stinging currents of the salty sea, the silken pool water tasted sweet. After a volatile marriage, it was hard to know if Robert was a friend or fling or... Were you in love with him? I was surprised myself with such a bold question. I looked up and met my mother's startled eyes. I didn't look away. The answer stared back at me. Yes, I am. It would have been easy for her to lie. I respected her for not treating me like a little kid, but felt myself slump. Great. My parents are getting a divorce. I wondered if my dad, all the way in LA, knew about Robert too. One night I had a nightmare. The skies in my dream were stormy. I heard a man's voice hiss deep in my ear. A helpless joint upon the floor. I looked down to see a detached elbow lying on the floor by my bed, briefly illuminated by a flash of purple lightning. I woke up to a pitch black room, terrified. It was raining, so I could hear the frogs in the courtyard. I was a little kid, desperate for her mama. I didn't know what was worse, lying there shaking under the covers or heading across the new moon courtyard to find her at the other end of the house. I braved the courtyard, hurrying along its edges. The air was damp with croaking. I tried not to step on any frogs, but twice felt the cold squelch of amphibious flesh squeeze between my toes. I didn't stop. I ran into the house, weeping as I felt my way through the dark. I could see the crack of light from my mother's closed bedroom door. It was my North Star beaming me in. I opened the door and saw the worst thing possible. A perfectly made empty bed. My mother hadn't been there all night. She'd left me all alone. On her bedside table lay her ruby ring. I knew where she had gone, who she was with, and what they were doing together. When I dried my eyes, I picked my way through the frogs back to bed. I was only 10, but I knew things, grown-up things, and I wouldn't be helpless anymore.